This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome. You are in the lab room. Of course, I am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Final day of the 2015 NFL Scouting Combine. We've covered days 1 through 3. Day 1 was kickers, offensive line, and tight ends. Day 2, quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. Day number 3 featured defensive line as well as linebackers. And day 4, which we will be covering today, the final day of the Combine, defensive backs. Safeties and corners are up in the final day. So, looking at this crop of players, I must admit to you, I have no prior knowledge of any of these players. Haven't watched any tape on any defensive backs. They're the one group of players that I just haven't studied at all yet. So, this was a very informative day for myself. I had heard some backstories on some of these guys, so I am privy to some information about some of these players, but as far as the tape is concerned, the DNA, as far as I'm concerned, I have no prior knowledge about these players. So again, it's going to be fun for me to go and watch the tape on some of these guys, especially the ones that Mike Mayock and Charles Davis and Daniel Jeremiah have talked about glowingly. I can't wait to put the tape on for those guys, but I have a list of guys here that I looked at the combine, I saw their measurables, I looked at what they did on some of the on-the-field drills, and I said to myself, hey, these are guys that I feel like are draftable players. And again, I can't say that with 110% certainty because, again, I don't have all of the information. I don't have the DNA, which is what is most important, the tape. But just going off of measurables, movement skills, things of that nature, and the way they timed out at the combine, broad jump, vertical, all those things, their ability to bench and run and cut and change directions. Those are the things that I can see at the combine, and these were the things that I was looking at as far as who I wrote down and wanted to speak about. But you look at some of these guys on this list, and I'm going to tell you what, I was a little nervous because, look, Mike Mayock, he minced no words. When he talked about the safety position, he said, look, this is a weak class. There's not a lot here. It's Landon Collins and then ... So, not a very endorsing way to brief us up on the safety position. So, I already went into day 4 with low expectations, lowered expectations of the safety position. But the corners, I still expected a lot out of them. And at the beginning, it was very disappointing, but towards the end, the second group, Group 11, they picked up the slack where Group 10 left off. So let's jump into the corners and talk about them and what they were able to put forth in day number 4, the final day of the 2015 NFL Combine. We start with Jalen Collins, 6'1", 203-pound corner out of LSU, ran a 4.46 40, and I thought throughout the day he showed the ability to change directions very fluidly. He ran well at 4.46 40 at that height. Again, remember, we're in a day and age in the National Football League where the receivers are getting bigger, they're getting stronger, they're getting faster, and so right now the big, long, tall corner is in vogue. So 6'1", 203 pounds is definitely going to stand out to the scouts, to the coaches, to the general managers, and so guys like Jalen Collins are on the radar, and when you run a 4.46 40 to go with that 203-pound 6'1" frame, you're going to jump up and scream, hey, come and get me. And so I thought he had a very good day, made a statement. Now you're going to have to go back, watch the tape to see if it matches up with what you saw on the field. But I tell you what, he looked really good, and he's the guy that I think will come off the board fairly quickly. If not, I don't think he's a first-round pick, but I think we will see him come off the board very quickly in the second round. You go to Ronald Darby, 5'11", 193-pound corner out of Florida State. So he played opposite P.J. Williams at Florida State, and so thought he showed some ability in the 40 to run. And he ran a 4.38 40, which is a surprise to no one. This is a guy that was a track star, so we know the ability to run very fast was present. And look, we said this at the top, and I talked about this at the very beginning of the combine day one. I said, fast guys run fast, which is what Mike Mayock says all the time. Slow guys run slow, go out and check the boxes. Well, he checked off that box. He's a fast guy, he ran fast, 4.38 40. But what I wanted to see was change of direction and fluidity, and I wanted to see how he was able to stop and move out on the positional drills. And I thought his footwork and change of direction was very, very tight. For a guy that is as fast as he is, and you would think he would be one of these guys that would be a little bit more smooth out there, but he's definitely a quick twitch, you know, athlete, but he did not show great change of direction. I thought it was a little choppy, wasn't all there, especially on the turn and run drills. You could see guys kind of losing their balance. Deion kind of made mention about seeing the arms flailing and try to keep balance. He was one of those guys. And on the turn and run drill, the uh-oh drill, when you basically you fall for a double move, you bite on a double move, and you have to turn and chase and go track the football. I thought he struggled in that drill as well. So didn't see a lot of great movement skills out of him. But again, got to see the tape. He played at Florida State. He was solid for them. So he's probably a really good football player, and the speed is there. So in this day and age, 5'11", you know, 193-pound corner with that kind of speed, there is a place on a team for a guy like Ronald Darby. I thought he went out, performed, competed, checked off some boxes, probably did himself some good at the combine with the way he went out and competed. Here's a guy that Mike Mayock talked a lot about, and I can't wait to watch tape on this guy. Sinquez Golson. He's a guy that's 5'9", 176 pounds out of Ole Miss. Right there, I hear 5'9", I hear 176, I hear slot corner. And so I was a big proponent for Jason Verrett last year not being put in a box as just a slot corner. I said, look, this guy, just because he's 5'9", doesn't mean he has to play in the slot, because Jason Verrett was a different type of guy. He played outside. He was able to get up in the grill of a lot of defenders or receivers, excuse me, and press them, play close up, get in their hip pocket, make plays, and I felt confident that that would translate to the next level. I'm not so sure about that with Sinquez Golson, but I will tell you, with 10 interceptions, which is what he had last year at Ole Miss, you can't deny ball skills. You can't deny a guy that is going out and making plays, and that's what Sinquez Golson did. I thought, to me, he was one of my favorite corners. Not named Trey Waynes or one of the big names going into the day. I thought he was one of the best guys out there. Thought he showed the ability to play in the slot. And what I mean about that is, with that 4.46 40 time that he clocked, there was quickness there as well. You got some guys that can run fast, long distances, but aren't actually the quickest guys. And at 5'9", he needs to be that in order to play in the slot, because again, you get those little jitterbugs in the slot, the guys that are hard to deal with. Quick change of direction, got to be able to show all of those things, and I thought he went out and showed everything necessary to hold his own on the slot, and he might even be able to, in a pinch, go outside and maybe do some things as well. So I'm not so sure I like him outside at 5'9", 176, but I think he'll make one hell of a slot corner, and he showed that at the combine. Can't wait to put on the tape. Thought he helped himself tremendously with his performance at the combine. Yeah, Doron Grant. Here's a guy, 5'10", 200 pounds, out of Ohio State. Ran a 4.44 40, so put up that Moses Malone and I thought he went out and he sold me on the complete package of Doron Grant. And what I mean by that is, he went out, or excuse me, Doron Grant, and Doron Grant to me went out and he sold me on a complete package that is Doron Grant. Here's a guy that I didn't think he did one thing wrong the entire day. He was just as efficient, as smooth, and as polished a guy I saw out there on the field. And he just went about his business very quietly. They didn't talk about him as much. but he didn't make any mistakes. I thought the footwork was good. I thought the change of direction was good. You see the 4.4 speed is there. At 5'10", he's got a little bit of length to him. 200 pounds, solid size for a corner that size. I just thought he went out and he did everything. He checked off a lot of boxes. Thought he actually caught the football well. Thought he high pointed the football in a couple of drills. I just thought Duran Grant helped himself immensely at the combine with his performance. Charles Gaines, 5'10", 180-pound corner out of Louisville. Another Moses Malone special. And I just thought he had an overall solid day. I wanted to leave him off of this list. I really did. But he just kept checking off boxes. And I couldn't deny it, okay? He ran his 40 the first time. He's 5'10", he's 180. And so he runs a 4.44, and then he runs a 4.44 again. And so I said, okay. So he checked off the speed box. I said, well, let's see how his movement skills look. So they go into the back pedal, and he looks smooth. He does it. It's effortless. I said, okay, can you catch? He caught the football, made plays. I said, all right, man, you got me, you handcuffed me, man. Go ahead, take me. So I had to write him down. I think this is a guy worth watching, and I'll have to take a look at his film. Thought he went out, did some things, played at Louisville on a good football team. So Charles Gaines has earned my respect with his performance at the combine. Thought he did a lot of good things. Just an overall solid day. Solid work put in by Charles Gaines. So you move on to the next corner, Troy Hill, 5'10", 182 pounds, out of Oregon, ran a 4.55 40, and Charles Davis swears by this kid because he was opposite of Ifo Ekpe-Olumu the entire year. And if you follow college football, he was the best corner going into the 2014 college football season. So knowing that, you know teams were trying to avoid Ifo Ekpe-Olumu the entire season. So in order to do that, you got to throw at somebody. That somebody was Troy Hill. And according to Charles Davis, he stood up to the challenge week in and week out. And I thought that he competed, showed some movement skills. And so I think with a little bit of length at 5'10", his ability to show the movement skills and go out there and cut on a dime and make some things happen that way, and his ability to go out and compete against high levels of competition week in, week out, and stand up to those different receivers and quarterbacks throwing at him week in, week out, making plays. I can't wait to watch the tape on this kid because he showed me the movement skills necessary to be a viable asset for some team in this league. And so Josh Hill is a guy worth watching out of Oregon. You always got to watch out for the other guy because when they're going away from one player, they're going somewhere else. And remember, Oregon played in the national championship game. That's not by accident. Josh Hill was getting it done at Oregon. Can't wait to watch that tape. And then that was group 10, okay? And there was one more group of corners, but before we got to group 11, they dropped this gem on our melon, and it was Byron Jones, 6'1", 196-pound corner out of UConn. And what he did was he set the combine ablaze with his vertical leap and his asinine, insane broad jump. Now, the vertical 44.5, we've seen guys go up and get it, okay? We saw Chris Conley in day one go up, and I think he might have had 45-inch vertical. We saw Vic Beasley go 43. Bud Dupree went 42. We've seen guys go up and get it. Go up and get the tape on the vertical leap. What we haven't seen, what blew everybody away, was that broad jump, which was just out of bounds, okay? The broad jump is 12.3, which is crazy because I've never seen anyone jump over 12. Never. Ever. No. Since I've watched the combine, I've been watching the combine for at least a decade. And I've never seen, and it may have been done, okay? I'm not saying it's never been done. I just don't remember seeing anyone jump over 12. You'll see guys get into the 11s, You never see them get to the high 11s. It's usually 11-8, 11-6, 11-3. This guy not only got into the 12s, but he got to 12-3, which is ridiculous. This was just out of nowhere. And so after seeing that, I mean, he wet the palate. I'm salivating over here. I mean, I had to wipe my lip a couple of times because you jump a 44.5-inch vertical, you jump 12-3 on the broad jump. I can't wait to see this 40. And then they tell me he's not running a 40. I'm like, what? Like, I felt like the guy that comes out to the basketball court and I got next. And I look over and I see this guy that's dribbling and he's doing all kinds of stuff. Shoots about 8 straight jumpers. They all go in nothing but net. Throws the ball off the backboard, yams it, dunks it. I'm like, that guy's on my team. I'm picking him. He's next. He's on my squad. We get to the game and they say, all right, man, you got your 5? Yeah, I got my 5. It's us 3 right here, that guy right there, and him. He's like, oh, no, I'm not playing. What? You're not playing? Come on, man. That's how I felt about him in the 40. I felt like he got us all lathered up. We thought we were getting this guy to come out and perform, and then we didn't see the 40. Now, of course, 1 + 1 always makes 2. And so, if the vertical is 44.5, if the broad jump is 12-3, you know the 40 is out of bounds. You know that's a 4.35, a 4.31, a 4.27, something along those lines. So I didn't have to see it. I just wanted to see it. After you see that, you want to see an encore, but we didn't get it, but it doesn't matter. Byron Jones, look, they said he was already a good player. It's not like he just came out of nowhere and did these things and now he was going to force people to go back to the tape. He was already a good player. They already knew about it. They just didn't know he was that freakishly athletic. So all he did was made himself some money. That's all he did. By just doing 2 simple things, jumping the vert and jumping the broad, he made himself a boatload of money. Now, I think UConn Pro Day, we may have heard 2 things about UConn Pro Day. We might have heard 2 words. Now, all of a sudden, I think when the UConn Pro Day shows up, we'll hear about it just because of what Byron Jones did at the Combine. So they'll definitely give us a little report on what he was able to do, especially with the 40 coming up at his Pro Day that he did not run at the Combine. But aside from that, let's get back into the corners that did perform all of the drills at the Combine. And we go to Kevin Johnson. This is now Group 11, the second group of corners. And this is a 6 foot, 188-pound corner out of Wake Forest. Ran a 4.52 40. Now, with the second group, Group 11, we saw no on-field drills. NFL Network just basically, they went to the desk, they started talking to Mooch, they started talking to D'Angelo Hall, who was a guest up there. They started talking to Daniel Jeremiah and company. And so we didn't get any on-the-field drills from these guys. So again, all I really have for you, being that I don't know much about these players, is the 40. And I can only go off of what they told me. Can't wait to put in the different games that these players participated in so I can evaluate them myself. But a 4.52 40 for a 6 foot corner sounds good to me. Long, can get up and go. And again, remember, with these longer corners that play press coverage, you don't have to run, you know, a 4.40. You know, you don't have to go out and be a blazer. Ask Richard Sherman. He ran a 4.6 40 at the Combine. I think he plays faster than that. He's probably more along the lines of a 4.55 corner. But when you get up in a guy's face and you disrupt his route, you don't have to run 4.6. I mean, you don't have to run a 4.37 40. You don't have to run a 4.43 40. All you got to do is be able to stay hip to hip, stay in that back pocket, locate the football, make a play on it. So at 6 feet, 4.52 40 sounds good to me for Kevin Johnson out of Wake Forest. Marcus Peters, here's a guy highly touted out of Washington, had the off-the-field issues, was dismissed off of the football team, has been very candid with everybody. I read an article where he basically said, look, man, that's on me. If I was the coach, I would have gotten rid of me too. I mean, I was out of line. I shouldn't have done the things that I did. And so I deserve to be kicked off the team. And that's what you want. You want accountability. That's the name of the game. You make a mistake as a man, and I say this all the time, as a man, you make a mistake, own up to that mistake. He's done that. And so it's not like he's out there smacking women around, not like he's out there robbing people. It's not like he's out there doing criminal acts and committing criminal acts. He just made a couple of mistakes with the team, and he had to pay for it by being dismissed. And so I think he'll be fine as long as he's able to convey that message to the teams. He talks to them. Pretty sure he sat down, interviewed with some teams at the combine. Going to have to go through that same process during the pro day. I think he'll be fine, have some individual interviews, sit down with some teams, some private workouts. He'll be able to tell his side of the story. And I think he's going to be one of these guys that probably goes off the board in the second round. He's 6 feet, 197 pounds, out of Washington, ran a 4.5 240 as well. So he's a longer corner again with the ability to bump, get up in your face, and disrupt you. He will tackle from all accounts. And again, 4.5 240 for a long corner that's going to press. Great time for Mr. Peters. You go on to Quentin Rollins. Here's a guy, 5'11", 195 pounds, out of Miami of Ohio. This is an interesting guy here. Mike Mayock talked about his basketball background and how he just played 1 year of college football. Played in high school, played no collegiate football until his final year at Miami of Ohio, when he realized my basketball dream probably not going to come to fruition. I'm only 5'11", not many 5'11" guys in the next level. So how about I take a stab at football? He goes out and has a phenomenal year, 7 interceptions, tracks the football well. They showed some clips. It looks impressive. I can't wait to put on the tape myself because, again, nothing gets me more excited than a cornerback that can locate the football and make a play on it. Seems like this guy has exactly that going for himself. And he ran a 4.5 840. Mike Mayock wanted him to run faster, but again, with those ball skills, not afraid. They showed him tackling. The guy came in and was lighting guys up. With him not being afraid to tackle, with him making plays on the football at 5'11", and only 1 year of collegiate football, and he's playing that well, sky's the limit for this kid. That's somebody that I'm intrigued by, and I thought he helped himself, again, just by competing. A 4.5 840 isn't the greatest time in the world, but his tape, his DNA sounds like it's legit, and with that kind of skill set, I think this kid is going to do some things. Somebody's going to take a flyer on him, and they're going to try to turn this guy into a stud at the next level. Josh Shaw. We all know the USC saga with him. The whole, I jumped out the window to save my nephew from drowning. That's how I hurt my ankle. And we later find out he fled from the police after a call to the police. And so it was this mess, whole situation. At the end of the day, gotta talk to him about that again. One of these guys with off the field issues that you gotta iron out if you're going to take him. But at 6 feet, 201 pounds, running a one of those Moses Malone 40s. That's a pretty intriguing prospect there. So again, gotta do your homework off the field. I gotta watch the tape. But at 201 pounds at 6 feet, running a Moses, I mean, that sounds really good to me. That's very enticing. Again, got to do your homework off the field and make sure that this guy is not a liability. Especially now that we're talking about a new agreement with the Players Association with the suspensions now. Because of what happened last year with Adrian Peterson and with Ray Rice, we know now the league isn't playing around anymore. Guys are getting 6 games right off the top. You got 1 run-in with the law, 6 games, you get another one, you're gone for a year. So they're not playing anymore. So you can't waste early round draft choices on guys if they're not going to come in and fly right. And so you got to make sure you do your homework on these guys and don't waste a pick on a guy that cannot come in and abide by the rules. But Josh Shaw looks the part. 6 foot, 201 pounds, 40. So we move on to P.J. Williams, 6 foot corner, 194 pounds, Florida State. A little disappointed in his 40 time. I heard so much about P.J. Williams coming into the combine and how he was supposed to be one of the top level corners. So at 6 feet, I'm looking for him to run, and Mike Mayock basically gave me an expectation. He gave me a ceiling. He said, look, man, I'm looking for this kid to run anywhere from 4.53 and down. Really, I want him to be a 4.5 flat and down guy. And his first 40 was like 4.62. I was like, yikes, that's not a good number. And Mike Mayock basically said he's got to come better the second time around, or that's really going to knock him. He goes 4.57 the second time around. And for a guy, again, I talked about this earlier with some of these corners, with 6 feet, corners that will come up and press and get in your face, you don't have to be a world beater. And I saw that firsthand being a Redskins fan. Bashard Breeland came in, hit the knock on him, no long distance speed. He was able to get in guys' face, challenge them, a la Des Bryant on that Monday night against the Cowboys. Get in guys' face, challenge them at the line of scrimmage, and you don't have to run, 4-3-7, 4-4, 4-40. If you're getting in guys' faces and disrupting them at the line of scrimmage and getting in their hip pocket and locating the football, you can make things happen with length, anticipation, and ball skills. And so, a guy like P.J. Williams, who played at a high level at Florida State, look, 6 foot, almost 200-pound corner. I think this guy is going to be just fine at the next level. Again, I've got to watch the tape, do my homework, and see what he's all about. But from all accounts, if he's one of the best corners in the draft, per Mike Mayock, and listening to Daniel Jeremiah and those guys speak of him, he's probably a good football player. So can't wait to watch the tape on him. Trey Waynes, to me, just blew it away. He was by far and away the best corner at the combine. It wasn't even close, and it was like this guy was just playing and running at a different speed and at a different level. I mean, he comes out, this is a 6 foot, 186-pound corner. He was by far the best corner coming into the draft, into the combine, and he did not disappoint. And that's the thing I loved about the combine this year, was that all of the top guys, the guys that we said that, the guys that we were told were supposed to be the best guys at their respective positions. Kevin White was supposed to be among the best. We saw what Vic Beasley was able to go out and do. Dante Fowler Jr., I thought he helped himself. We saw what the Williams kid out of USC did. We saw what Danny Shelton did. Everybody that was supposed to come out and shine at their respective positions did exactly that, and Trey Waynes was no different. He comes in, blazes a 4.32 40. That is blazing fast for a guy his size at 6 feet. I just talked about the 6 foot corner not having to be fast. Well, damn, it's great if you're 6 foot corner. It's even better if you're 6 feet and you're fast. You don't have to be, but if you are, that just adds a little bit to the lore that is Trey Waynes. And I think this is one of those guys that, if he just fine-tunes his technique a little bit, they showed a couple of flaws in his technique. And again, I can't wait to put the tape on, because I'm watching him run, I'm watching him backpedal and get out of his backpedal, and I'm just saying to myself, this guy is crazy. This guy is crazy. His movement skills off the charts. And they kept talking to me about Darqueze Dennard from last year. They look nothing alike. Darqueze Dennard and Trey Waynes look nothing alike. I mean, this guy is light years way more athletic than Darqueze Dennard ever was. So I just think this guy seems to be light years ahead of where Darqueze Dennard was from an athletic standpoint. Now, as far as physicality is concerned, I don't really know the answer to that. In the few clips that I did see, he didn't put his hands on the receivers enough. He didn't redirect them, which is something that Darqueze Dennard did do a season ago and at Michigan State. So we'll see. We will see. But Trey Waynes looks the part at the cornerback position. He was by far and away the best corner at the 2015 NFL Combine, and I repeat, will be the first corner off the board. You move on to the safeties, and there's not a lot here. Seriously, move on. There's not a lot here. I'll talk about a couple of guys that jumped out, and as a Redskins fan, my team desperately needs a safety. So hearing Mike Mayock and Daniel Jeremiah basically crack jokes the entire day about the safety position and how bad it is did not do me any favors. But if it's true, hit me with the truth, man. I'm all about it, man. I want the truth. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't be around the bush. If it's not there, tell me it's not there. And this safety draft, it's not there. And so, we start with Landon Collins. He's the cream of the crop, 6 foot corner, 228 pounds. My goodness. This guy is big, he's physical, he's mean, he's nasty. Don't know if the ball skills are necessarily there or not. I gotta watch more tape. I have watched Landon Collins a lot, and I didn't see a lot of plays on the football per se, but I did see him hit a lot of people, and he's physical. And he came out and ran a 4.5 4.40, which did nothing but help his case I think that the package is there. You know what you're getting, what kind of football player you're getting. And he's going to be the first and one of the few safeties that you're going to feel confident about off the board in this draft. He's a first-round pick. I don't think there's another first-round safety. You could argue that, I don't know if there's a second-round safety or not. Again, I got to watch the tape. But the way they make it seem, there's not a lot of guys to get excited about. But he's the only one at the safety position that is a lock to do anything as of now. You go to Curtis Drummond, 6'1", 208-pound safety out of Michigan State, ran a 4.65 40. I thought he showed solid ball skills and movement. His movement skills leave room for improvement. Wasn't that thrilled in the way he moved in the drills. And this was from Group 10, so we actually got to see all of the on-the-field drills with these guys. Was not that impressed with his movement skills, thought he struggled. And again, at 6'1", he's a taller guy, so he needed to get down more. I didn't think he got down and used his legs enough. I thought he was upright and he was stiff, and so you saw that and it translated into his movement skills. But again, with the production that he had at Michigan State, with his size, I think this guy, again, there's not a lot here, so you got to take what you can get. I think he's going to be a guy that teams will look at in the draft. Chris Hackett, 6', 195-pound TCU safety. And I think just all the TCU Horned Frogs struggled on the defensive side of football. We talked about Paul Dawson a day ago, struggling at the linebacker position. Add Chris Hackett to that discussion. I heard nothing but good things about this kid going into the process. At the combine, he looked god awful. 4.8 340. Yikes. Yuck. That was disgusting to watch. And then to follow that up, he's long, but he just seems slow and lethargic all day long. He's got to be better at his pro day, and I think he will be. I keep hearing people talk about how good he was on tape. You can't be that much worse from the combine and the tape, and so I just expect him to be much better at his pro day, but he was not good at the combine. He did not do himself any favors, but that's why I talk about coming out and competing at the combine, because if you don't like what you put forth at the combine, you've always got your pro day, and it's always good to get 2 shots at it rather than just one. If he would have done this at his pro day, he would have been basically screwed in terms of being able to solidify his spot in the draft. Now he's still got some work to do, but at least he can convince some teams that, hey, I'm worth taking, because what you've seen on tape is what I'm about to show you here at my pro day. So we'll see what happens down the line for him. Here's a quiet guy they really didn't talk about a lot, but I love everything I saw from him in day 4 of the combine, and that's Adrian Amos. Here's a guy that's a cornerback and a safety, and at 6 feet, 218 pounds, that is some great size. I think his physique, his stature was excellent. I like the way he is built and put together. And then out of Penn State, he ran a 4.56, which intrigued me right off the jump. And then I thought he showed the type of ability that is going to land him in this draft as a potential steal for someone. I just think he's one of those under the radar guys. You know, he played at Penn State and played a lot, started a lot of games for them. And I just like what I saw, man. I thought this guy went out and competed. I didn't see one thing wrong with what Mr. Amos was out there doing the entire day. And I think Adrian Amos definitely helped his draft stock with the way he performed at the 2015 NFL Scouting Combine. You move on to group number 11, and the safeties didn't get much better there either. There are a couple of guys that Mike Mayock makes me feel intrigued about. He didn't say he felt good about them. He said he was intrigued. So I, therefore, am intrigued because Mike is intrigued, and so I gotta go and watch the tape. One of those guys, Demarius Randall, 5'11", 196-pound safety out of Arizona State. Ran a 4.47 40, so right there is where the intrigue starts. You know, you get 5'11", I'm like, oh, okay, I mean, not that big, whatever. 196, probably not going to be lighting guys up, but you tell me you ran a 4.47 40, you got my attention, because again, that's corner speed at the safety position. And again, anytime you can have a safety drop down over the slot and run with these guys, it's imperative in this day and age in the National Football League, where teams are coming out and starting a game in 3-4 wide receiver sets. Gotta have safeties that are interchangeable parts that can come down and drop over the slot, play deep halves, play a deep third and run around and make things happen. Sounds like Demarius Randall could be one of those types of safeties. James Sample is a 6'2", 209-pound safety out of Louisville. And he ran a 4.56 40 as well. Thought he was overshadowed by Gerard Holloman at Louisville, a guy that I was really looking forward to seeing at the Combine, and for him not to be able to participate, very disappointing. Now, the knock on Holloman, quickly, is that he doesn't tackle. Again, I have to go back to the tape and watch. But if they say he doesn't tackle, most likely the guy doesn't tackle. But I know he can catch a football, had 8 interceptions at Louisville, which is what intrigued me about him. But you talk about James Sample, he does tackle, doesn't have the best ball skills in the world, but at 6'2", 209 pounds and a 4.56 40, it's a great time for that kind of size. I want to see what he's doing on tape. So it'll be fun to watch Louisville tape in general because both of these safeties, they do different things. I want to see how they react playing with one another. That'll be some fun tape to watch. Thought that 4.56 was definitely a big help to James Sample moving forward. You go to Jaquaski Tart. This is a guy that Mike Mayock and Charles Davis were both banging the table for. And so I am definitely intrigued by Jaquaski Tart. 6'1", 221-pound safety. This guy is built like a Mack truck. The closest physique you will get to Landon Collins is Jaquaski Tart. I thought he just looked like a guy that you don't want to run into in a dark alley. And he's out of Sanford, not Stanford, Sanford. 4.5, 4.40. So I thought he was moving, he ran fast. Now I just want to see the tape. I really want to see his tape because he's one of the few hopes that I have as a Redskins fan at the safety position, and the guy looks like he's mean and he looks like he means business. And finally, one last guy, Dean Marlowe, 6'1", 205-pound safety out of James Madison, 4.58 40. Again, didn't see any on-field drills, so can't tell you a lot about him. Heard he was the best player in that conference on the defensive side of football, and James Madison is a 1-2A school, so he stood out amongst the rest of his peers, which is what you're supposed to do when you go to a 2A school. So again, don't have a lot of these guys, haven't watched them, but I can't wait to do so. And that is your 2015 NFL Combine in a nutshell. Day one, I thought the offensive line went out, performed, going to be able to get a lot of good linemen in this draft. I think the draft crop of linemen is very deep. The tight ends, conversely, not so much. Not a lot of depth, not a lot of quality either in this draft at tight end. So if you got to get a tight end, you better get one very fast. You go to day two. I thought the receivers stole the weekend as far as the Combine is concerned. They were the best group of any of the groups by far, and I thought Kevin White was the show stealer of that group. Not too far behind though. I think we got caught up in the Kevin White show. Don't forget about the receiver out of Alabama. I think that this guy is really good, and his 4.4 240 is a big statement for him as well. So don't want to sleep on him and his ability either. The running backs, wasn't really a lot there in terms of speed, but there's a lot of quality backs this year, and all of them can catch, and they were headed by Melvin Gordon. And the quarterbacks, you know about that whole group. There's not a lot there. After the top two, good luck with, Bryce Petty and the rest of those guys. Good luck finding you a diamond in the rough at the quarterback position. Day three featured defensive linemen and the linebackers. Disappointed in the linebackers. Didn't feel like they came out and showed well. But again, the tape for those guys is important to watch. With the defensive line, however, Vic Beasley stole the show. He was the man of the hour in day number 3, and I think he made himself some money, solidified his draft status as a first-round pick. Now it's all about where is he going to go in the first round. A lot of guys stepped up. Fowler, Bud Dupree. I actually thought Eli Harold made a name for himself at the Combine as well. So thought the defensive linemen, we know about Williams, we know about the big boy out of Washington. So a lot of guys stepped up, made some things happen, and solidified their draft stock at the Combine in day 3 as the defensive line was the standout group there. And then day 4 with the DBs, the cornerbacks, above and away better than the safeties. Safeties, much like the tight ends, not a lot there. You need a safety, better get you one quick. They're going to go very fast. I call it LTO when it comes to situations like with the tight ends and the safeties. Limited time offer. You need a safety, better get you one fast. That's going to do it for the 2015 NFL Combine covered here in the lab room. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. Real quick, I will be breaking down these players individually, so keep your eyes peeled for that as we're going to start breaking down these top prospects in the upcoming draft here in the lab room. Stay tuned for that. It's coming soon to a computer, cell phone, television set near you. Have a good one. See you in a bit. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In the Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.